Thank you so much, Nina.
Thank you,
I
Nina.
hope you survived the storm. Keep us
I hope so
posted.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye now. Thank you. All right. Thank you, everyone, for that wonderful conversation, for engaging with Nina. There's a storm in Penn State, so she really worked hard to be with us today. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. So now I am going to introduce the co-founder of My Skin Global, Mr. Yehoyada Mbangukira. He is also the president of the United States Rwandan Community Abroad, also referred to as USRCA. A note from the nonprofit. Most recently, he served as the UCRC Secretary General before he became the president. As an organizational development and management consultant, Yehoyada strives to focus on what is possible in any organization to optimize its resources. He believes in process of decision-making in lives of leaders to ensure consistent and effectiveness during seasons of disruption and hopelessness. He aspires to have sustained effectiveness in managing human resources, wellness, and engagement, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Yehoyada enjoys serving on nonprofit organizations that promote the well-being of the most vulnerable populations. My Skin Global provides an opportunity to partner with organizations that care to preserve the well-being of the most vulnerable who are brainwashed to think their beauty and color give them significance. As a human rights activist, Yehoyada believes skin bleaching is like a virus that must be curbed due to its potential damage to the nervous system and kidneys, among many other dangers to one's health. So Yehoyada will join us and talk to us about the potential curriculum that we hope to develop to support this work within school programs. You will also get the opportunity to introduce our Excellence Ambassador Matilda from the Rwandan ambassador to the US when she arrives. She's caught up in a meeting. When she arrives, she will take us there to have a conversation with her. But as of right now, Yehoyada and my friend Justin, who is a former elementary school teacher, will work together in providing perspective for us on how this curriculum will look like. Justin Frodel, Yehoyada, would you please take it on from here? Thank you.
Absolutely. Can you hear me, Francoise? Excellent. Thank you very much. I am elated and I'm grateful. I wish Nina was sticking around, but she must do what she has to do. And that was a most amazing presentation because she gives us the reason why we are here, why we gathered here today. And I want to thank you, each and everyone that is listening, watching. And there was a question that I believe it was Jose Reyes. I think the question had something to do with what is going on, how one can get involved. And the brief answer was, you are here, you are involved. The fact that you came to learn, it means you want to do something about it. It is unfortunate that our social interactions, our social space glorifies, edifies color, skin color, or on the other hand, we are judged by the skin color that we so possess. And someone has taken the time to promote the whiteness, the lightness of skin to people's detriment, to health detriment. So as My Skin Global was set up, and the objective is to ultimately partner with some of the companies that Nina mentioned, Unilever, Procter & Gamble and others, or even the celebrities and the media personalities that are looking to curb the use of these chemicals. Now, dermatologists may give a person some of these products to help them, let's say, with acne or pimple or some discoloration that comes from either illness or environment. But in so doing, I'm in the pharmaceutical industry right now. If you have a side effect to a prescription and you like that side effect, then you perpetuate it with that chemical, with that drug. So in this case, if a dermatologist were to give a patient legally a product that takes away the blotch they came in there for, and they like it for its lightening effects on one's skin, and they choose to abuse it beyond the prescription, then it falls into this category of My Skin Global's mission to curb the use of, be it that it's legal, but especially the illegal products that could be detrimental to one's health without the providers or the doctor's care. And so there are many legal products on the market in all therapeutic areas that can be and have been abused for reasons that we cannot get into right now. But in particular, My Skin Global's mission is to help educate, and the education we just got from Nina was so amazing that you can have a role in how we move forward as My Skin Global. And one of our main things that we did was to find a way. We are in the process now of looking for someone who will give us a curriculum. And once that curriculum is developed, we want to pilot it in the local schools in Denver, especially the Denver School District, because the question is, what are people doing out there? We thought if we were to go to the young people, grades, school grades, 3 to 5 year olds, 5 to 6 year olds, 6 to 7 year olds, and on to 13 to 14 year olds in the 8th grade, what we are hoping to is to how can we spread the news from the most vulnerable platforms, the young people, in schools? Because if these same children will watch TV and they'll see the artist that Nina showed us, Dempsey, I think was the name, who was as dark as beautiful ebony to now pale. What actually happened to that young lady's skin? I can't imagine that it only affected the outer, the inside that we are not aware of may be affected long-term. So My Skin Global is looking to have this curriculum produced. The good side of this curriculum is it is what it will do. The challenge that we have right now today, if I can just be myself, is how do we fund the production of this curriculum? That's where you come in. That's where you get to be a contributor to the progress of My Skin Global by being one of the founding members of this movement, this cause, to actually help this organization with your funds. And then not only your funds, but you can be a spokesperson in your small space. You can start the conversation, because there are people who are doing this without knowing the consequences. Yeah, the commercialization of white skin, light skin is wonderful. It does a great job. The association, as Nina said, the association to wealth, progressiveness, to all this wonderful life is associated to that. And so the curriculum, as Justin can add to this, is that once we introduce it into the school systems, then the school systems hopefully can incorporate it into the different grades, and it will be tailored so that there is an awareness that we are seeking for these young people to have, so that they don't fall for those tricks, and let them, as Francois said, of can we love ourselves in the skin we have? Is it okay to be dark? Is it okay to be light? Is it okay to be brown, bronze, and what? Yes, yes, yes. But can we have it naturally? And of course, that is a question each individual will have to answer. But imagine if one can even take one of Nina's textbooks, even just the slides she used this afternoon, and you put them in the curriculum and have people understand from that young age how this came about, why we should not perpetuate this. You as a parent, you as a friend, you as a community member can actually make a difference in how My Skin Global moves forward. And so let me stop right there. And that's Justin, if you're listening to me.
Yeah.
Take us through what that would mean in the form of from A to B or to Z even, how that can be incorporated into a student's year and education through those grades.
Well, thank you for that intro. I've done some brainstorming on how it would look if we were going to do a pilot, and I'm thinking, you know what? Can I share my screen? I have a document I wanted to for the visual learners out there. I've been teaching elementary for 18 years, so I have a pretty good understanding of how kids' minds work, and I also understand how school districts work. And if we were going to do a pilot, if we were going to get some pilots in, let's say Denver School District, they're not going to say yes to a full year's worth of curriculum. So what I was thinking is we would start with 12 40-minute lessons. Can you guys see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So 12 40-minute lessons to be given once a week by the primary teacher, because we're not going to be able to hire teachers and send them in. So this would be a curriculum that the classroom teacher would be able to utilize and implement. And it would last for 12 weeks. So I'm thinking like a semester, maybe September to December, something like that. I think the beginning of the school year would be better than after the holiday break. But this is just, me brainstorming what I think would work and what I think the districts would be able to buy into, because it's not a huge commitment of time. I know teachers are very possessive of their classroom time, and I'm sure there would be teachers that would be excited about doing a pilot like this. But this is what I was thinking. So for each year, there would be a different curriculum of 12 40-minute lessons. Okay. And I put the year 1, year 2, just for the, if we're going to go global, you would need to have that. But there would need to be, I'm going to go down a little bit. It would be taught weekly, and it needs to be easy to implement in the sense that the teachers are not going to be able to dedicate an hour of planning time in order to deliver the 40-minute lesson. I'm trying to make this sellable so that the district and the teachers and the administrators will all be okay with it, because it's not going to, change so much of the schedules and all of that stuff. And we might, if you guys are going to do a pilot, you might want to just do a couple of grades to show the school or how it would work. Maybe start with charter schools. These are just my thoughts. I'm not an expert in this, but I was thinking, I don't know if any of you are familiar with Second Step. Second Step is a social emotional program that I've used in several schools that I've taught at. And it's sort of the vision that I would have for this, in the sense that it's very easy to implement. There's not a lot of manipulatives that you would need. You would just need to follow the creative lesson that is put before you and teach it to the kids. It would take, 10 minutes to prep. And I'm thinking that the curriculum should spiral. And that means that the key concepts are presented in each grade and are repeated each year with deeper complexity. Okay. So it like builds upon itself. Now, I was really kind of a little bit challenged thinking about how do you teach 3 to 5 year olds about this and what would be appropriate content for the younger grades. We're not going to talk to them about, the history of racism and slavery. I don't think that would be appropriate for that age group. So what I've just kind of developed some themes and essential questions that I think, I'm not sure if it matches with your vision of where the curriculum should go, but these are my thoughts about what would be an appropriate way to introduce the concept. And then as the kids progress, obviously it gets more deep and more sometimes eye-opening, but also sad. But they're going to need to get to that place in order to truly understand what this is all about. So here are some of the themes that I came up with. And this is brainstorming. What do animals have that protect them from harm? What are the different types of protective layers animals have for protection? So start at the basics. What even is skin? Why do we need skin? What does it do? Okay. Then move into different types of skin tone. Why are they different? How did this happen? And you're going to have to get into evolutionary adaptations. There's a lot of science that you could teach through this. We could do lessons about sunburn and how the sun's rays can harm us and how they can help us with the vitamin D, right? I was thinking do a lesson where you cover kids with like a fur blanket or something and have them run around and see how hot they get versus, not having that fur on them, and how that helps release heat and why we lost our fur over the thousands and millions of years. Then we could get into cultural stuff and how did different cultures come about in different places? How does geography affect the culture? And you can talk about, different environments, cold, warm, what kind of foods, what kind of customs. Then you could get into more of the social emotional stuff. What is peer pressure, teasing and bullying, self-esteem, and then also just talk about fairness and biases and judgment and what does it all mean and how does it all come together in what makes a good human being. These are just some of the things that I was thinking. And then, if you wanted to get into some of the deeper content, I've only just brushed the surface here, but if you wanted to get into deeper content, I was thinking get more into the history of race relations, save it for the older kids. I don't know if any of you have ever read Guns, Germs, and Steel. It's one of the best books I've ever read. And it's just an attempt to explain geographically why different cultures developed and at different rates. And it really is based on agriculture and geographical barriers. And it's in a wonderful book. I was looking to see if there was like a kid version, because I know sometimes they have adaptations, and it's a pretty heavy book. It's a heavy lift. It's not for 8th graders, but I did see a YouTube video of like an 8th grade class that I don't know if the teacher adapted it herself, but they did a whole exposition of what they learned from the book. And I thought that might be an interesting place to go to demystify the whole idea of, well, why did Europe develop gunpowder before the Aborigines of Australia? And just knowing the facts of how cultures developed and the idea that it has nothing to do with the color of their skin, I think that it's a very forceful message to send.
Justin, I don't want to interrupt you, but let me ask you a question, before you go into that detail. With your experience in the system, the educational system, where do you get your curriculum handed to you from?
Well, it depends on if you teach in a public school setting or a private school setting. Usually you get it from the administration, and the administration gets, they're at the higher levels of the district, the superintendent and the people under that person are the ones who decide on the type of curriculum, like what type of math program are we going to use? What type of reading and phonics program are we going to use? So we would have to get to that high level in order to get a green light for a pilot. That's why I was saying maybe a charter school would be a good avenue to go to first, because they have more autonomy. They wouldn't need to have a district-wide kind of thing. But
that does give, that gives us an idea, and the audience an idea of what it entails to get this in front of students.
Yeah,
because
first
the heavy lift.
First, you have to get it in front of administrators.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
There's heavy lifting between here and there.
Yeah. There's some sales involved for sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. I like your themes that you just shared with us, and how it can be broken down, and how to tailor make it so that creates intricacies that will be pertinent to each grade and each age level.
And there can be read alouds that go with each grade that can be built upon throughout the years. Like I know there's certain read alouds that are read in a kindergarten classroom that the first grade teachers refer back to, because they know that the kindergarten teachers covered a certain book with certain language. One example is, have you filled a bucket today? About being kind and filling up each other's buckets of feelings, good feelings and goodwill. So that gets referred to throughout the years, and it builds upon itself. So, I'm just really doing basic brainstorming here. Here's some read alouds that I were thinking that might be stuff about skin, self-esteem, and peer pressure. Again, this is just really, really rudimentary stuff. But I wanted to just give you guys a layout of how I think it could work. And how a district or a charter school would buy into it. They'd be like, wow, this is pretty cool. We can do this. You're going to need to get teacher buy-in as well. So
that does help to contextualize when we tell the audience and anyone else that we need to develop a curriculum. And so we're trying to get children contextually age-appropriate material to go to a bigger issue that, at least if you can curb it at this level, then the influence, hopefully, down the road as they become teenagers into young adulthood, they are not swayed by skin bleaching. Or if they see it, they understand what it is. So just thinking of the magnitude of what it will take for everyone to get involved from that level, because I believe that anything we get from a school setting lands well, as opposed to getting it from TikTok or social media. Absolutely. But here we can influence, and our objective is to hit it from the school level, social media, and then into the adults, the parents, and all those corporations that promote the skin bleaching. And so if there's any questions in the audience, they can ask those questions. But for me, I just wanted to have us emphasize the fact that there is going to be lots of work, and you have given us that framework within which we need to be mindful that we can indeed get there through the system. And you being an expert in that space does bring color and context to what we're talking about.
I'm glad I could help. Again,
Absolutely.
these are
Great.
just suggestions. You know, I would love to get feedback on what you guys think. If anything, we could totally add new questions and things. This is just literally, I've been thinking about it for the past couple of days. It hasn't been, I haven't had the chance to go deep with it yet, but I'm excited about it. A lot of these topics and themes, I'm already excited about just thinking about what you could do creatively to engage the kids. I think it's cool.
Thank you. Excellent.
Yes, it looks like,
Yes, sir.
it looks like Charles has a comment.
Yeah, Justin, this is to Justin. And I know that creating curriculum and all that, it's a lot of work involved into doing that. And sometimes I wonder, this is just thinking a little bit louder here. Can some of these subject matter sort of be already sort of, can they be included, let's say, as topics, special topics in existing curriculum, in which, for instance, a biology teacher could talk about it, a teacher who teaches sort of geography, I don't know if they're still teaching geography, but could talk about it. Yeah, because if you talk about skin color distribution and all that on a global scale, and then when one can also include that in science, in which actually sort of UV lights, how it works and how it does to your skin. These are small tidbits which can actually sort of be brought in, and then if they are taught from a lot of different angles, sort of the kids get all this broader, they start sort of connecting all these dots together. And maybe that does not sort of make it sort of, the teachers sort of feel like, oh gosh, there's more heavy lifting here, and that I have to actually sort of bring in so much other stuff, and the days on Earth's got only 24 hours, and they need to do a lot of different things. So I'm thinking and wondering about it, if that could be developed in a way that we can inject it in various sort of studied, and maybe with 1 or 2 schools, and see how this can actually be incorporated in already existing curricula.
You know, Charles, in a perfect world, that's exactly how I would love to do it, to be honest. Integrating it into bigger subjects, making it a part of a bigger concept, that's the way you should do it, okay? The barriers to that idea are that most public schools have a social studies curriculum with a textbook, unfortunately. And so you would need to train the teachers to incorporate that into the subject matter they teach. As far as elementary, kindergarten through 5th grade, usually it's the classroom teacher that has those same students for the whole day.
Yeah.
And so they have their teacher materials, and a lot of times it's not presented in textbook format because the kids are too young, which is good. Usually by 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they start using textbooks, and then it's almost mandated that the topics in the textbook are what's covered. Unfortunately, that's still how most of our school system works. Now, if you were going to do a pilot in an independent school that didn't have restrictions about, national standards and things like that, schools where teachers develop their own curriculum. I've taught at schools like that too. They're the best schools in the country, where there's autonomy and freedom to develop the curriculum and go with where the students want to go in the direction they want to go. So that would be doable on a piecemeal, school by school basis. But then we're looking at independent private schools. If we're going to be looking at, if we want to distribute it on a large scale to public schools around the country, unfortunately, I don't see a way that that's going to work, because then you're talking about asking teachers to integrate this small piece into whatever the subject matter is, be it science, biology, geography, history. Not only that, but you have to train them on how to do it. And then then you have to have, there's going to be a lot more of a commitment. I think a more realistic way to start would be this once a week kind of thing that's not going to be a big lift for teachers. And then it can grow into that eventually. I would hope that it would become influential enough eventually to be part of a major curriculum. But I don't think you're going to get buy-in from the start at the stage that MySkin Global is in right now. Again, I agree with you. That would be ideal. That would be how I would want to do it. But realistically, unfortunately, I don't think, I don't know. It's up to you guys. If you wanted to just try it with a couple of schools and do it that way, I think it's a great question. I just don't think it's mass producible.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The reason I'm actually thinking that way is the fact that I've worked a little bit with Denver Public Schools, in which I have gone in to talk about a specific subject, for instance, which the teachers, and you're right, is that you have to have teachers who think out of the box, because those textbooks are so rigid in the sense that unless you use examples which actually sort of really connect those kids to the real world life, sort of real world sort of experiences, then they are not. So for instance, I've gone to talk why humans walk on two, why people are sort of bipedal, why are they not like chimpanzee or dogs which walk on four, and then the reason, the biomechanics and the energetics which gets into that. But these were actually part of teachers who they were much more excited about incorporating things like that in talking about the differences.
And inquiry-based learning.
Exactly.
Asking questions and trying to get to the answers with the kids and guiding them.
But unfortunately, you're absolutely right that actually sort of you have to have teachers who actually have to buy into that. So how do we do that? How do we get teachers to buy in?
I think there's, like he said, I like what he said, that there'll be a lot of salesmanship to take place. To be able to penetrate, we'll have to slice this thing a layer at a time. It's a multi-layered approach, actually. Like you said, Justin, you cannot mass produce this and dump it in some place. It has to be a hand-holding process that we desperately need to get to and find the right people to actually articulate it that way. I noticed, I think it's Julie's comment that, I think it's, it fits in many places, as Charles said, and Julie says science, physiology, anthropology, psychology, sociology, it fits. And it is that challenge. How do we get there so that our children, the young students, get it, not a dump, but slowly. It has to be a gradual process. We'll get there, but it's a long-term commitment to finding the right mix as to where we launch, how we launch, and to who we launch, and how it can be perpetuated across different schools, different systems. And that is something MySkin Global is committed to, and you are invited to be part of that conversation. And so Justin, unless you have some closing words that you want to share, I was gonna close out this segment and then hand back to Francoise to take us to the next segment in the interest of time.
Great, thank you. I guess I would just say that the biggest challenge I see is time, and the biggest challenge is to convince administrators and teachers that the time that it will take to implement this curriculum is worthwhile. And teachers are very, very, they don't like people putting more on their plate to teach, because already they're strapped for time. Oh, I'm only on unit 6 and it's already March. How am I going to get to unit 10 by May? And now they want me to do this too. There's not enough time in the day. So there needs to be a way to show the value of it. And I think tying it to social emotional is going to be a way to sell it, because schools are already very much interested in that. And some schools already have curriculum for that. And if you did want to go into the integration, that would be the way to go. You're not going to be able to teach it across the curriculum. You're not going to, I don't think at this stage we're going to be able to get a school to agree to incorporate it into their geography or their science. Realistically, I'm saying miracles can happen, but I think if we did want to tie it to something that a school might already be doing, it would be social emotional.
Excellent. Good guidance. Absolutely. Thank you.
Well, I wish you luck.
Thank you for being here, for being supportive, and for your guidance. Most definitely, we shall do that. And we welcome all the suggestions, and we welcome your participation as we progress in this, because we are not looking back, we are moving forward, and we want this to get to our young ones that are influenceable, and some adults may come along so that we can curb the toxicity of these chemicals that could destroy the next generation.
Yeah, I gotta start.
Thank you very much, Justin.
This is where to start.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Francoise, I will yield back to you, and I thank you for spearheading this, and we are here to support you and to move this conversation forward.
Say excellent, excellent. Thank you so much to you both, Yohiyada and Justin, for taking us through the curriculum development and how the framework of how it would look like. Justin just said good luck. I think, Justin, you're a part of this, so I don't know how you can wish us just luck. Also, I wanted to point on the comment that Maria posted in the chat. She said, I think that it needs to be presented to the decision makers at the district level, and that would be your school boards and so on. So it shouldn't just end within the school curriculums. You know, it should begin conversations within, you know, those school boards, as well as our elected officials. That's what I'm hearing here. I love the conversation on how it fits about anywhere within school programs. I think that's wonderful. It opens up a big door for us. And I think Justin, being an elementary school teacher, gives us a lot of leverage in this area of work. I have a couple more people on this in this meeting who also are connected within the Denver Public Schools that could potentially open a lot of doors for this conversation to continue to happen. Yes.
Rental. So can I just say that right now through CDE, at least here in the Denver metro area, I know that they've been doing a lot of work around equity and inclusion with the different groups within school districts. And so some school districts have committees already set up, made up of teachers, board members, you know, just different representation. But I think that it wouldn't be a bad idea to tie this in to that work that they're already doing. So then it kind of skips a little bit of all of that other bureaucracy that goes on. And so, in full disclosure, as a school board member for Adams 14, I can tell you that a lot of the hard decisions we have had to make is around the curriculum, and, you know, and how we try to make it so that everybody has skin in the game and everybody can actually, you know, give us the ideas, from community leaders to parents to everybody, to be able to say, is this the best one or not? And so one of the new things that we're doing in Adams 14 is we're having a language curriculum for one of our schools. We're going to pilot one of our elementary schools to be dual language this year. And so, of course, equity is going to be way up there on the work that we're doing. And so they've been providing some really good information around race to these groups. And so that's why I'm thinking that it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some type of connection with them.
So Maria, can we connect offline and kind of figure out our next step?
I think that'd be great, because they're already, I mean, there's some work already happening that I think that this, you know, why reinvent the wheel, right? Let's partner and see what we can do together.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Maria. I appreciate it.
That's wonderful.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. Any other comments, questions for Yehoyada and Justin? Yes, Jose.
I'm interested in the idea of integrating this in the schools. The part that is most intriguing to me is, how are you going to do this without presenting a program that talks about the values, the purpose, and the outcomes that you're trying to achieve as a result of the curriculum that you're proposing? And as an educator, I want to know what that is. I'm not really open to say, yeah, let's kind of open it up and do whatever you want. Or like today's been a good example for me, because Dr. Nina has presented something very useful that has gotten me interested in this process. And I want to talk to other people about it because of what I learned from her. So if you come to me about a curriculum without going through that process, I'm going to say to you, I don't have time. I'm already bogged down by too much to do. How is this process going to help me with, as Maria is saying, with inclusion, with integration of diversity, with education for the children to really understand this process beyond just what they hear in the news and what people talk about? So I think that you started something here today that's very, very useful, that I certainly have learned from. So when Dr. Nina talked, I was all over it, because I became a person on your side because I love the information that I got from her. And I started thinking about values. I started thinking about purpose. I started thinking about outcomes. And as an educational system, that's something that they need to know before we even go into this is how much time I need, and these are the courses that I want to teach. That's just my thought.
Yeah, Jose,
That's
I totally agree with you.
Go ahead.
There's part of the curriculum is going to have outcomes, and what are the outcomes that we want to see? Are they measurable? How do we measure them? That's part of what a curriculum is. And I know you know that, you're an educator. So yeah, when one of us walks into the school district to talk to the school board or the administrators, there is going to have to be a mini version of Nina's presentation. And there's going to be, why are we even doing this? What are the goals? What are we trying to solve here? That's part of the sales job, you know? And so that would be my answer to that. Yeah, that's definitely part of what needs to get built. Absolutely.
Justin, you're right. And the thing is, just being here in this space right now, that's where the conversation begins. Is it a well worth it endeavor to even support and have the conversation? Because to your point, Jose, if somebody like Nina were to present, maybe there would be a group of people that have the influence who can say, we can plug it here because we can measure it. We have this thing, this package that we want to deliver, but we do not know where to drop it off at. By holding hands between Justin, Jose, Julie, Jesse, anybody who can spearhead this and direct it, then we'll know what kind of resources we need. And resources is not money always. It's the people, advocates who understand, who can say, yes, 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 we get it. But they need that Nina-like filter down or just a breath of what she presented today. one has to get a full scope of what does this really mean, and the deleterious effects that these chemicals have, and potentially what damage they create and bring about in people's lives. But I think, yeah, that's the conversation, and this is where we are right now. Thank you very much.
Sure, and Julie adds another comment in the chat that what is the cost? What are the consequences for not doing that? What do we lose? You know, do we continue to just be complicit by the fact that the way we are perceived around the world? You know, do we continue to look at our children's eyes when they look less of human beings simply because of the color of their skin? Or do we take the initiative to educate them about our differences and kind of hold them solid in their skin color, you know? Tell them how beautiful they are, give them tools to use, you know, through this world we call our world. And really like kind of change the dialogue, really. And that changing dialogue is going to take all of us. And that's why we have this conversation. This is why we will continue to have this conversations to bringing experts who have been, you know, been through this work, done work that are related to this type of work, that continue to see the problem. When we talk about groups and people that are doing this, it's not enough because nothing has changed. So what does it take? And if we cannot work through educational systems, you know, which is where we hold and nurture our children, what kind of future generation are we really willing to raise and support? You know, these are conversations we have to have internally within ourselves. And then look around, just look around. My daughter was on the screen. I mean, she is going through these journeys. She's having these challenges simply because she's a dark-skinned girl. I went through that myself, regardless of how a bit of lighter. There she is. That's Rose. You know, there's a lot going on, you all, and you all know this. We need to work together to change this, and we cannot do it without parent to parent and teacher to teachers, you know, and like holding those electeds accountable, and potentially on a global basis, because this is a global pandemic. So with that, I thank you again, you both, for taking us through this conversation. And I want to invite our friend, my friend, Melissa, who is an amazing global advocate, a leader in the community, an executive director of the Chamber of Commerce in Buena Vista, and also really volunteering her time to write grants for My Skin Global. Melissa, would you take it on, please?
Yes, thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay? Great.
Yes, we can.
Thank you for that introduction, and thanks to everyone for their great conversation around this topic and their expertise. My name is Melissa. I've been in the nonprofit world for over 10 years now, doing fundraising and working for all sorts of different causes, including some global health organizations. I'm so excited to be working with Francoise and her team at My Skin Global. I think we can all agree that everything we heard today is really compelling, and I do see this organization as being a change agent in both the local Denver community and around the globe. So as Francoise mentioned, I'm helping with the grant writing process, and you know, even the input today is going to go a long way as we're writing and asking organizations for funding. But to start with, we've had some conversations about where do we all start, those of us on the call, and how can we help start making these conversations happening and these changes. And I think that there's a few ways that we can all help. One being spread the word within your network about the great work that's being created within My Skin Global with this curriculum, with being global advocates for this pandemic. Also volunteering your talents and services. If you have a way to give back through volunteerism and expertise, it sounds like we have many that do. That's a great way to help advance this mission. And then of course, always through financial giving to the organization so that we can continue this work and this research and really discovering what the outcomes are and how we can get to those outcomes for a world where everyone is proud of the skin that they're in. So I'm going to put a couple ways that you can contribute financially in the chat box right now, but also I think it'll be in a follow-up email to everyone who participated. But really, I think just being here and on this call is the first step to helping this organization succeed. And I truly look forward to the grant writing process. I think having already talked to some potential funders and program managers there, this is something that specifically hasn't been funded in a lot of places. And I think that there's really an opportunity to be trailblazers, and hearing the research and the history and everything we heard today just got me more inspired to talk to more program managers at more foundations and with more funders. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak and introduce myself. And I am open to questions or suggestions or anything else that you all might have to share.
Any questions for Melissa? Thank you so much, Melissa, for being here and for speaking to us and for all the work you're doing for the Skin Positive Network. Any questions for Melissa? I think they all wish you good luck, Melissa.
Thank you. Well, again, I think a lot of what we talked about here just helps be able to continue to tell the story of what we're trying to do, and seeing this support is inspiring. And that's what you want when you're writing grants, is that inspiration. To answer Justin's question, yeah, a lot of funders, there's a few different ways. It depends on the funder, but a lot of funders do want to know what their dollars are going towards. So they look at a budget. Some of them will give just an unrestricted donation, which means the organization can really use it in the best way they see fit. Some, depending on their mission and goals, will have more tight guidelines around it. And then we'd follow up with grant reports and let them know. And then, having those impact reports of the results that we saw through their funding or through that specific program is something that they'll look for. But it really depends on the funder, but many of them in the public health sector and, in education do want pretty specific areas where they're going to fund. But you can get lucky and get that unrestricted, and they just trust the organization to use it the best way they see fit.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. And our first priority is getting this curriculum development funded. So that's where any dollar that is, comes through this organization will go. It is our top priority.
I have one last question. Will all of the, whatever is created, curriculum materials, will they only be in English?
I think that's a great question. As I work in a health equity organization, and so no, everything we do has to be translated into at least Spanish. So that will be our first kind of task will be translating the English and Spanish.
Yeah, because this issue is not just, for English speakers. You have many of our youth. So I work for a school-based health center, right? Kids First has 8 school-based health centers here in Adams 14, and in Adams County, in 4 school districts. And this just goes across the spectrum. And, we have the lightness of our skin is also a spectrum from one end to the other. And it doesn't matter what ethnicity or race you're classified as. It goes across all lines. And I know even for our Mexicano population, you have a lot of the girls who are very self-conscious about how dark they are and so forth. And, and it doesn't help that there's a lot of things on social media that, really promote skin lightening techniques. And it's not just creams, it's surgeries, it's all kinds of, just awful things that come up. And they really do know how to target our youth, because it's kind of like vaping, right? You just kind of make it so that it's very intriguing to them. And they use a lot of the TikTok and, Instagram and what have you. So it is a pandemic. Race right now is a pandemic on its own, right? Just racism is a pandemic. And then you add on top of all of that, the fact that people have low self-esteem because of the color of their skin. So it creates for a huge mix of emotions around our kiddos. And when you talk about suicide and attempts and what have you, a lot of the bullying and all of that, sometimes it's just because of the way you look, most of the time. So we want to make sure that it's across the board to offer to all the kiddos.
For sure. No, absolutely. And you speak to a really key point here. We see this being kind of like our initial phase, right? We're starting right at home. And then we hope to partner with different states at different times, nationally, but also internationally. And as we venture into different states and into different countries across the globe, we're going to be developing curriculums based on the need on the ground. And so each curriculum is going to look different. But right here at home, we're building a model that could be potentially adapted, adjusted as needs be. So that's the vision that we have moving forward. But your input, Maria, is very valuable, and your participation and understanding of the population and school programs and school boards is invaluable. So yes, for sure, we will be connecting, and we can work together in kind of developing something that is desirable for the populations that you serve. Thank you. Any other comment, question before I turn it back to Yehoyada to close this out? I see none. Yehoyada, you're on, my friend. Thank you.
Swaz, thank you very much for this initiative. And to those of you who are still with us, we thank you for your time. And I just want to let you know the ambassador to the United States from Rwanda was supposed to be with us, but meetings have taken up her time. And one of the reasons we had invited her was because she is from Rwanda, obviously. And Rwanda was one of the first East African countries in 2019 to ban these products. It was not the first one in Africa, but nonetheless, they did it recently. And there is a ban, but like anything else, once you ban it, there's somebody who will figure a way to get it illegally. So we want to see these products at a minimum. They may not be banned because in the US, the freedom of speech and all those things come into play. However, our children are vulnerable already. There's many other influences around them. The World Health Organization recognizes that these are very dangerous products. Now, if there is a way to make them simpler, maybe there is a way that to make them simple so they don't destroy the pigmentation, but there's no any other way you can look at it. These things alter the physiology of children, human beings, and even adults. So our mission and our cause will continue. We'll seek partnerships. We'll seek you and your friends, your circle of influence, to help us spread the word and wish us well and support us financially by any other resources, information-wise, so that we can thrive and get this message to everyone that needs to hear it. And we thought, My Skin Global, going through schools where the young are invulnerable and willing to listen to an authority, a teacher, that you and I can make a difference and have a better life for our children into the future. Thanks again for being here. And please stay in touch, as we will stay in touch with you, for making the time, staying with us, and be well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your evening. And thank you so much again for being here. Thank you so much, Yehoyada, for closing us out. Jose, it's amazing to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. Greg, thank you for sticking around. And Maria, I'll be definitely following up with you. Justin, Melissa, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Francoise.
Yes. All right. Have a
Bye-bye.
good one. Katie, I see you. I think it's Marta. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Rose and Carissa. Thanks, Greg.